It's Tuesday, July 3rd, 2018, and I got a question for all of you. I want to know, I want your help. Do we think that EA buried Mass Effect Andromeda? Basically, released the game in a state that they knew it wasn't going to succeed. Knowing that this game probably still needed another 4 or 5 to 6 months worth of development to fix some of the easy to see bugs, like the facial animations. Now, I have a theory that Star Wars is the main reason that the Mass Effect series has been buried. I can't find anything that says otherwise. I can't find EA confirming this, and I can't find EA denying this. I can't find Disney saying anything. But it's my opinion that one space operatic sci-fi storyline like Mass Effect can't compete with Star Wars. And they're basically both space operatic sci-fi adventures. So if EA is going to make games of that nature, they're probably going to invest it all in the Star Wars license. Now, I looked up a lot of stuff. I looked up when EA announced the Star Wars license agreement, and it was in 2013. It was in March of 2013. Or no, yeah. No, May 6, 2013, EA announces the Star Wars license. March of 2012 is when Mass Effect Andromeda went into production. So the game is already rolling. You've got BioWare working on it. It's one of your more prestigious developers. You've had some success with the original Mass Effect trilogy. But now you're in talks with Disney. And very shortly after you get the Mass Effect Andromeda rolling, basically EA announces the partnership with Disney to take on the Star Wars license. Now, in EA's announcement, they said that 3 of their main developers were going to be working on it: DICE, Visceral, and BioWare. Now, BioWare works on Mass Effect. Now, it was BioWare Montreal working on it. BioWare Edmonton, I think, was focused more on Anthem, and BioWare Austin, I'm not sure. I think they're kind of a helper more than anything else. But BioWare Montreal, of course, is working on the Mass Effect series. Now, the development of this game, they talk about this game being severely understaffed. BioWare Montreal had people from Edmonton helping, had people from Austin helping. They even took help from developers. They outsourced stuff to people in Russia and China and India. So it's like BioWare was outsourcing things because they didn't have enough people at home to get it done. BioWare was having problems with the Frostbite engine. The first 3 games were released on the Unreal Engine 3. Unreal Engine 3, which they were very familiar with, and it worked very well. But EA wanted them to release this game on the DICE engine, or the Frostbite engine. Well, the problem is the Frostbite engine was made by DICE for, essentially first-person shooters. RPGs and first-person shooters, pretty different. So they were having a lot of problems with the Frostbite engine. And it doesn't sound like EA was super helpful. They kind of, said, you guys can do this. You can figure it out. But EA also knows at this time they have the Star Wars license. And they want people to start working on Star Wars. Now, of course, Visceral got buried. Amy Hennig, who was working on a Star Wars game, they dumped her Star Wars game. EA's doing some confusing stuff in all of this. But EA had to know that Mass Effect was not ready for release. That game was supposed to come out in holiday of 2016. Now remember, this is EA. They probably are not real happy when they have to delay things, because if something is in development it's not making money. If it's being developed, it's costing money. So in 2016, the game was probably horribly broken still, but it still gets released in very early 2017. It got released March 21st here in America in 2017, and it got March 23rd in the PAL territories. Mass Effect Andromeda was released. Now the critics gave it decent scores. I think most people gave it sevens or eights. I mean, it was a decent game, but the problem with it was those facial animations looked terrible. It looked fake. It looked horrible. And a lot of people buried the game because of it. A lot of fans just thought it was silly and they needed to fix it. Mass Effect also canceled any single player DLC. July of 2017 was the last patch that they put out for the single player. But a lot of people said they fixed most of the problems, but it was still the last thing they got. But in August 19th of 2017, they basically said, we're not going to do any single player DLC for Andromeda. Another little hint that EA was basically saying, let's move past Mass Effect. We have Star Wars. So the game gets a little bit of help. It gets a little bit of fixes. They did say that they would still work on the multiplayer stuff a little bit and keep fixing any little bugs that might pop up. But essentially, 4 months after the game, or no, it was August. So July was the last update. But basically, you're looking at April, May, June, and July. You're looking 4 months after the game was released. They basically stopped supporting it. They basically said, we're not going to make anything new for it. We're not doing. So if you bought a deluxe package or the premium, whatever the premium editions were, hoping that you were going to get some DLC later to sink your teeth into, it wasn't going to happen. The game had a lot of development problems. They had people who left the company. Chris Wynn left the company. He never gave a reason. He just kind of left the company. Now I have a feeling that EA was putting a little bit of pressure on him. It's like, this game needs to get released. It needs to get out, and it's not finished. Why is it not finished? Why is it not working? Like I said, the Frostbite engine was giving them problems, and they were having a lot of problems with the facial animations. Everything else they said was working fine. The combat and a lot of other stuff worked great, but they were having so many problems with the facial animations. And Mass Effect games, you're in the face of a lot of these characters for most of the game. So those facial animations have to look good. If they look phony or fake or just, almost mannequin-like, it's going to ruin the immersion of the game for you, because it's just going to look terrible, and you're always just going to be going, that looks so bad. So I think EA, they knew they had Star Wars. They had Star Wars at this point for 4 years. They'd been working on the Battlefront games. They had the game that Visceral was working on that they basically canceled. Now, that's another problem. The canceled Visceral game meant that they needed to get basically all hands back on deck that they could into the Star Wars universe for some of the other games, because they're not, now the one that Visceral was making is gone because EA didn't like it for whatever reason. So that means we got to get more people working on Star Wars games. Let's not work so much on this. We've got Star Wars, we don't need Mass Effect. Now, they've never said that. There are even people that say Mass Effect is not dead. Well, I don't think it's dead either. But I don't think we're going to see another Mass Effect game until the Star Wars license runs out. If the Star Wars license never runs out, then, we may never see another Mass Effect game. Because let's face it, why not at least, it's like you could take some resources and release the original trilogy as a remaster. Put all 3 games together for $60 and remaster them for the PS4, remaster them for the Xbox One, remaster them for the Switch, even PC. It wouldn't cost that much to remaster them, and they would probably sell well. But unfortunately, it might take sales away from Star Wars games, or it might take development time away from a Star Wars game. Now, I know what people might say. Well, what about Anthem? Anthem is something that has been in the works for a long time. And Anthem is something that is not really not really going to feel like a Star Wars game or some kind of. It almost looks way too. I don't know. It looks a lot like Destiny, but it looks like it might be more fun than Destiny. I don't know. It looks like a really fun game, and I doubt Disney has put any pressure on anybody to say don't make any more Mass Effect games or any kind of sci-fi games at all. I just think Mass Effect might be a little too close to Star Wars, because Star Wars, you're not really running around in these little mech suits and whatnot. It's Jedi's and it's, you know, Force, the Force and things of that nature. Um, Mass Effect kind of has the same thing with, I think it's the Bionics or whatever, the Biotics, which are almost like, you could basically say they're Force powers or some kind of magic. And you can still work on Dragon Age games because they take place in a more of an ancient time, or what looks like a more ancient time. So it doesn't once again affect the Star Wars universe in any way. But they got rid of, the Montreal team was shortly gotten rid of after Mass Effect Andromeda. Um, Even when they were making Mass Effect Andromeda, they came out and said at some point, and this was after they had the Star Wars license, we're not looking to make another trilogy. They didn't want to get hamstrung into making a trilogy. Well, that's probably because EA wasn't really going to let them make a trilogy. And you got to understand, if you're doing a corporate thing, you can't come out. Corporations always feel like they can't come out and tell us the truth. They just feel like for some reason we can't handle it. It's almost like EA says, we're too fragile to handle EA just coming out and saying, look, we've got the Star Wars license, this Mass Effect Andromeda thing, last game. We've already spent too much money on it. We're going to release it as it is. We'll patch out what we can, but then we're done. We're going to focus on Star Wars. And someday maybe we'll do another Mass Effect game. And then they think for some reason we'd all just lose our crap. And with EA, we might. Because we'd sit there and go, well, we love Mass Effect. You can't just kill Mass Effect for Star Wars. Maybe you can. But corporations don't feel like we can handle that stuff. So they don't tell us the truth. So EA is probably telling the developers, it's like, look, we have to put a spin on it that says we want to create a story but in a different way, and we don't want to hamstring ourselves into a trilogy, forcing us to make 3 different games. We can make it grow organically. So, and this is basically EA saying, we're not making any more of these things. Now, I don't think they knew the game was going to sell as poorly as it did and have as much backlash towards it as it did. I don't think they realized that it was going to be that bad. But I do feel like it helped EA make the decision even easier by saying, look, the game didn't do well. We're not going to waste time on single-player DLC because barely anybody bought the game, even though 2 million copies is a lot of copies, let's face it. But not enough people bought it, so we're not going to waste our time on DLC. We're not going to do any of that stuff. And I'm sure the multiplayer servers are pretty, vacant right now. So effectively, I think EA buried Mass Effect. I don't think they hate the franchise. I just feel like there's no reason to keep this going when you have Star Wars. And there's no reason to keep spending money on a game. Because honestly, 4 or 5 more months worth of development works out a lot of those bugs. And then the game can release in a very fixed, pretty good form where you might only have to iron out a couple of bugs here and there. But Mass Effect was rushed because it was costing too much. When a game is in development, it makes no money. When a game is released, you at least have a chance to make some money. So EA, big corporation, has to answer to shareholders, and shareholders are going, why is this game still in production? It's not making money. It was supposed to come out holiday of 2016. It's not making money. And then EA basically sits there and goes, okay, are we close? Can we put this thing out and then patch out later? Like some other games do, where you just put it out and say, hey, we'll patch out the problems. Lots of games are doing that now. They just kind of put out the game and say, we'll tweak it later. Don't worry, we'll fix it. We'll fix it. Just enjoy it now, and hopefully there's nothing game breaking in there. So Dragon Age is still a thing. Anthem is going to be a new thing going forward for them. And like I said, it's going to feel more like I think a mech-based shooter than like a lot of people are saying, an Iron Man game. So more of a superhero sci-fi thing than an actual space operatic. I know they keep saying it's like, oh, there's going to be a lot of single player and you're going to have your own storyline. Well, how are you going to do that if everything's multiplayer? I don't know. I like Anthem. I like what it looks like. I'm excited to play it, but I don't know what it's really going to bring to the table. And I don't know how they're going to work a single-player story into a multiplayer game. So we'll see. I have a lot of faith in BioWare, but they have made a couple of missteps here and there, and Andromeda was a misstep. But I think a lot of that is EA's fault for kind of saying the game should have been out in 2016 at the holiday season. It didn't come out. We wanted that game out. Instead, we had to release Titanfall 2. But it's like we wanted Mass Effect out for the holiday season. You guys didn't have it done. We outsourced a bunch of stuff. It's not ready. And now we have to hold it off for another, 5 months? Because holiday is probably October or November. So then you're looking, because you're not going to release it December. You got to get that thing out before Black Friday. You can't put it out. After Black Friday. That's probably not the best time. If you've got a big AAA title, you want it before Black Friday, so when those sales start rolling, boom, you can get in there on it when everybody's buying stuff for everybody else. So the game had a troubled past. Chris Wynn lost or left. George Lehani, or something, he left. Mac Walters took over for some of this stuff. This game, to me, needed another 4 or 5 months. But I believe in my heart of hearts that EA said, we just need to start making some money on it because we've got the Star Wars license. We're not going to make any more Mass Effect games for a long time. So, I mean, let me know. What do you think? I mean, this is just something I'm kind of throwing out there. I mean, is there something I'm missing? Is there some stuff that EA has basically said? I tried to see if there's any Mass Effect games in the works, and all I keep seeing is there is always talk of Mass Effect. Well, of course there's talk. They own the rights to it, so of course there's always going to be talk. But I can't find anything that says there's something in development or somebody's working on it, or it's just right now, is it more than just a couple of guys talking saying we should make another Mass Effect game? Is there something I'm missing? Is there something that EA has said that I can't find that has said what I basically told you, which is like, we're just concentrating on Star Wars and Mass Effect is something where I've seen where EA and BioWare have kind of said, we're going to take a real hard look at what this Mass Effect game was previous. We're going to take a hard look at it. And we're going to see if we can fix what we messed up. And we're going to do better next time. Okay, that's corporate speak for when we start working on another one of these things again, we'll try to remember what we screwed up the first time and not do it again. But no promises. So, let me know. I mean, is there something I'm missing? I mean, is there somebody else that has come out and said anything? Any of these people that have left BioWare that have said anything that can add to this? I can't find it. I mean, it's like I'm bouncing all over the internet trying to, find this stuff and reading, Game Informer, IGN, Kotaku. I'm reading like One Angry Gamer or something did a review or did something on this. I mean, I've been looking all over the place trying to figure out if maybe I'm wrong. But I feel like EA buried Mass Effect Andromeda so that they could effectively bury the Mass Effect series, because now none of us are really super excited for another Mass Effect game because the last one was very disappointing. And if that's the way they're going and we don't get Commander Shepard, I feel like I would like to see Commander Shepard come back somehow. I don't know how you would do that. I know they've talked about prequels and they don't want to do a prequel, but to me, Commander Shepard is who we loved playing as. And that's what we want to see. Now, I'm not saying you can't make another great Mass Effect game with another character, but you need to have another really good character like Commander Shepard. No offense, but the writers, they just weren't it. They weren't that character. They weren't Commander Shepard. And you need to bring back the Renegade and the Paragon. You need to make our decisions feel like they have weight. Or at least let us, if we want to play as a jerk, let us play as a jerk. Or if we want to be nice to everybody, let us be nice to everybody. And let us feel like we're making a difference or getting to play the game the way we want to play the game. The system they put in the new in the Andromeda just wasn't what. Nobody was complaining about the Renegade and Paragon thing. People loved it. So why did you take it out? Yet another reason I think that it got buried, because EA should have went to BioWare and said, no, don't screw with the Renegade Paragon thing. People like that. I know I did. So let me know. I mean, I've looked at a lot of stuff. I could use your guys' help. I could use your help. I mean, I got a ton of help on that Cyberpunk 2077 thing. I mean, so much help. Great information, great commenters. I'm hoping to get the same thing from you guys now on this. Tell me something. It's like if I can get a ton of good information from you guys, I'll do another video on this thing saying what I've learned from you. Because I plan on doing another video on that Cyberpunk 2077 just from all the stuff that you guys have put forward in the comments, which has just been amazing. So I'm hoping to get kind of the same comment response. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. I mean, I know that the Mass Effect thing isn't it's definitely not being talked about really much right now, so I don't expect a lot of views out of this. I really don't. But if I can get a few of you out there who can really help me out with this, who have some comments, I'm good. Just anybody who watches, I'm grateful. I'm happy for it. This has just been, it's been a kick in the head, especially with that Cyberpunk 2077 thing. So it's like, let me know what you think down in the comments below. With all that being said, to the troops, past, present, and future, thanks for the freedom.